Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the media briefing for this Wednesday. Let's go ahead and get started. I see we've got Dr. Moreno with us. Dr. Moreno, do you have any updates for us, or are you ready for questions?
Hey, good afternoon, ma'am. I'm here to take COVID-19 questions for public health.
All right, let me open the chat box. So go ahead and put your questions in chat for Dr. Moreno, and I'll start with the question that I do have. Dr. Moreno, is it certain the BA2 subvariant will cause a surge of cases in Monterey County?
All right, thank you, ma'am. So we have detected 2 specimens among Monterey County residents that tested positive for BA2. And currently we still have 100% of the specimens testing for one of the Omicron variants, which includes BA2. At this point, the case rates are decreasing, not as quickly as they did, say, a few weeks ago, but there's definitely still decreasing as and the trend is shows a downward. We see a downward trend for hospitalizations and also a trend for decreasing positivity rates.
Thank you. Next question. Can you explain why hospitalizations increased from last week while the case and test positivity rates decreased?
Thank you, ma'am. So again, we look at trends, and we don't look necessarily from day to day or a few days at a time. We look at the overall trends. And the overall trend definitely shows a decrease in hospitalizations and case rates and positivity rates. So we'll continue to look at the data over time to look at a trend, and that's really what we're focused on. We don't really try not to make comparisons from a day to day or over just a few days.
Right, thank you. Next question. Is there anything the county health department can do to prepare for a BA2 surge? And if so, what?
Well, I can't speak for the health department, but in terms of public health, we're still want the public to know that vaccinations, being fully vaccinated, is the best protection from getting COVID. And if you do get COVID, you're less likely to have a serious infection, less likely to be hospitalized, and less likely to die for it. So the most important thing that we really promote is people make sure people know about their increased risk of getting seriously ill if they don't get vaccinated, and then act on that and take advantage of the various vaccination opportunities that are in Monterey County, including our public health hosted vaccine clinics.
Thank you. Next question. How dangerous is the BA2 variant compared to Omicron?
So the BA2 variant, the BA2 virus is one of the Omicron variants, and the little bit of data that is available suggests that it may be more contagious than previous varieties of Omicron, but not necessarily more virulent, meaning it may not cause much more serious illness than the previous versions of the Omicron virus.
Thank you. That's all the questions that I have in chat right now. Are there any additional questions for Dr. Moreno before we let him go for today? And I'll wait for a couple seconds here for typing. I'm seeing no other additional questions. Dr. Moreno, if we get any additional questions, we'll forward them on to you.
Sure, ma'am. Thanks.
Thanks very much for joining us today. So next, we're going to turn from COVID to water. We are very pleased to have Brent Bucke with us for a progress report on the Interlake Tunnel and Spillway Modification project. He's with the Monterey County Water Resources Agency. Hi, Brent.
Good afternoon, Maya. So good afternoon, all. Thank you for inviting me to today's media briefing. My name is Brent Bucke. I'm the General Manager for the Monterey County Water Resource Agency. I've been asked to provide a brief summary of the presentations made to the agency board of directors as well as the agency board of supervisors in regard to the Interlake Tunnel and the San Antonio Spillway Modification project. So the simplest way to discuss this project is the Nacimiento watershed is much more reactive than the San Antonio watershed, and the reservoir captures more rainfall. Therefore, the San Antonio reservoir will typically have greater storage volume available. The Interlake Tunnel would move the captured rainfall from Nacimiento into San Antonio reservoir. So we've done some modeling on the this proposed project, and I'm going to share my screen quickly here. Let's see. To show these model results. There we go. And so we had two different scenarios, the tunnel only, and then the tunnel plus spillway raise. And so the benefits that were identified, and actually, let me just back up just a second. The main purpose of Nacimiento and San Antonio dams is flood control, water conservation, and recreation. And so the results that are displayed here are the annual average changes that we would see over the period of record. So anytime you do a computer model, you use actual data. And so that's from 1967 to 2014. And so the changes that we would see as a result of this project are shown in this spreadsheet. So again, the tunnel only is on the left here. Well, it's in the middle, the description, then tunnel only, then the tunnel plus the spillway raise. So we see these combined storages of the two reservoirs would increase significantly. The actual water surface elevation at Nacimiento would decrease, but at San Antonio, it would increase because we're moving water from Nacimiento into San Antonio. These total transfer on average is about 30,000 acre feet, and the percentage of the time is about 50% of each year, or of the total number of years, there would be a transfer between the reservoirs. This change in non-flood control releases are the water conservation releases. So when we make releases from the reservoir in the irrigation season, those are conservation releases. So with the tunnel only, we'd see about an increase in 10,000 acre feet. And then with the spillway raise, closer to, well, it's over 14,000 acre feet. This change in flood control release. So as the reservoir fills in the winter and it gets closer to the spillway, we're required by regulations to make releases so that the reservoir doesn't get into a situation like was seen up at Orville a few years back. And so this is an actual decrease in the flood control releases that would happen. When we make releases for conservation, we're also sending water down to the Salinas River Diversion Facility. We're diverting surface water down there for irrigation in and around the town of Castroville for the 12,000 acres that are served by the agency out there. And so we see an increase in water available to the SRDF of around 1,000 acre feet. And then this last unit is the change in diversion days. So the number we can operate from April 1st through October 31st, but a lot of time it's dependent on available water, but also irrigation demand. So during this period of record, we do see an increase about 2 weeks at the facility. So this is just a simplified drawing of the system, the Nacimiento Reservoir, San Antonio Reservoir, this, and shows that the tunnel with the spillway modification. It shows these maximum numbers of storage, the release, the flood control reduction, the improvement for the performance of the SRDF, and the greater benefit is during the dry year. So down on the bottom of this little diagram, it talks about this 48,400 acre feet in a dry year of releases that will go into the groundwater. So the Salinas Valley, everything is based on groundwater except for the SRDF, which is a surface diversion. It supplies not only all the agriculture, but all the cities along the Salinas River. And so this benefit is, this project is multi-beneficial. And again, the water transfers would occur in about 50% of the time. So this data represents the benefits that could be realized from the project, and the agency will continue to use the $10 million grant that we received from the state of California to evaluate the Interlake Tunnel feasibility. Another very important point that needs to be identified is the full functionality of Nacimiento and San Antonio dams. In order for this project to be implemented and work, as well as all the groundwater sustainability plans from the Salinas Valley Basin GSA, the dams need additional work. So the Water Resource Agency is working hard with our state legislators, and and landowner groups to secure the state surplus funding and develop further mechanisms to ensure that the dams meet regulatory compliance to be fully functional. So that was a real brief overview, and I'm available for any questions that anyone may have.
Thanks very much, Brent, especially for showing us just how valuable this project would be in terms of saving water, because of course that's what everybody's talking about right now is the availability of water. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat right now, but perhaps you might also walk us through, there's some milestones for the project coming up, things that people will be seeing related to the tunnel and the spillway, such as a draft EIR and getting this project shovel ready.
Yes, so we are working on that, the administrative draft EIR. We'll hopefully get that done later this year, possibly into next year. So that is the first step. You have to get all your permits, you have to get your EIR done. That's where this modeling was really key for us to get all that information out. So we need to get that out to the public so they have an opportunity to review it. And then we're working on all our permitting. And again, we have a $10 million grant from the state. We have just under $2 million left, and we have to put together an engineer's report and do a few other things, but we're on task to have that completed by the grant finalization in January of 2023.
Question here, how key is this project in light of the droughts we continue to experience?
Yeah, so this is a storage project. So the realization of the project isn't felt until we have rainfall. And so again, the Water Resource Agency has a lot of tasks and responsibility to maintain and operate facilities. And so we are doing that, but we rely entirely on rainfall. And so we are looking at, we've seen this, the benefits, we've modeled the benefits that could have been seen in the event that 2017, 2018 winter, where we released flood control release of 192,000 acre feet we sent downstream, and it went down the river, went to the ocean. We could have transferred about 80,000 acre feet from Nascimento into San Antonio. So we know that there's a direct benefit, but it is dependent on rainfall. Hopefully that answered that question.
Thank you. And I don't see any other questions. In terms of when this could actually happen, people are, this is not something that happens overnight. What would be if when you get to the design and construction phase of this, what are we talking about?
Yeah, so the actual tunnel itself is already at the 60% design, and that was part of this grant exercise where it is a design build project. And so we would hand over the work that's been completed to a successful bidder to finalize the design and start construction. And so when the EIR is done and then the permits are in place, we would have to do a Proposition 218 process to secure funding before we could actually start construction. And so that is a component that we will complete before January of 2023. And we continue to work with the ratepayers, which are the landowners within the Salinas Valley, to realize the support for the project or not.
And in fact, this is a question just following up on what you're just saying. What about assessments that some property owners may be asked to pay or required to pay? Certainly there have been concerns and questions regarding that.
What was the word you used?
What about assessments that property owners may be asked to pay? And I think this is related to the 218.
Right, yeah, so assessments are based on the benefits received. So that the engineer's report for the Interlake Tunnel has not started yet, but it would require evaluating the individual, the benefits received by individual landowners, and your assessment would be based on that.
Right, thank you. I think that answers that question. Any other questions for Brent before we let him go for today? Seeing none, if some come in, I'm going to send them your way. Thanks very much, Brent, for filling us in. It's great to have an update on this project.
No problem. Thank you.
Right. And so our next topic, we're going to talk about the updated Downtown Government Center MOU. I think in our communications, I called it a vibrancy program, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the Downtown Government Center MOU. Yesterday, the city of Salinas and Monterey County okayed this MOU. And so what does that mean for the rest of us? What will we be hearing about in the next few months? Joining me is Melanie Beretti, Principal Planner for the Monterey County Housing and Community Development, and Lisa Brinton, Assistant Director of Community Development from the City of Salinas. Good afternoon, ladies.
Good afternoon.
So Melanie, go ahead and get us started on this program. It's very exciting to see the MOU still in place and updated.
Absolutely. Thanks, Maya, and thanks everyone for being here. So as you indicated yesterday, the Monterey County Board of Supervisors and Salinas City Councils approved the 2022 updated Downtown Government Center Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU. So this marks 10 years since the first downtown MOU between our jurisdictions. And through this updated MOU, the county and city are eager to build upon our coordination successes over the past decade to help create a vibrant and connected government center that optimizes public services and enhances downtown Salinas. So the 2022 approved MOU identifies priority areas for coordinated planning over the next 5 years. Highlights of what you can look for in the coming years include the county and city conducting facility and parking needs studies, including fiscal analyses, to determine optimal use of our existing facilities in downtown and planning for future governmental uses in downtown. We'll also be exploring opportunities for mixed-use development, affordable housing, and open space on county and or city-owned properties, while preserving or reusing historic buildings where feasible. And we're also working collaboratively toward a long-term consolidated parking solution to meet the needs of the government center and supporting infill development opportunities in the downtown area. And over the coming months, the community can expect to see planning activities underway to explore the feasibility of a joint parking facility. The city is taking the lead for the planning of a potential parking facility, and to speak more about the city's downtown activities, including planning for a potential parking structure, I will hand this over to my colleague at the City of Salinas, Lisa Brinton.
Thank you, Melanie. And I first want to thank the county for including us, the city, in this briefing. And this MOU is really truly a good example of city-county partnership and collaboration at its finest. For the city, the development of additional parking structures in our downtown is really critical to support a vibrant downtown, provide access to the government center, and to allow for infill development, including mixed-use development with residential units here in our downtown. And some efforts that the city has taken towards that initiative are to rezone our city surface parking lots from public, semi-public to mixed use to allow for that type of development. However, that such development and infill is infeasible without being able to provide parking in other locations. So now that this MOU is in place, we are really excited to take the lead on activities such as taking a look at the technical studies that have been undertaken to date and undertaking any new studies that are identified as required, developing an actual project description and site plan, and then really working with the county to engage the community in the process. That is a critical component of our planning activities is really involving the community. And once we have a set project description and site plan, we will then commence the CEQA activities. And there's always the question is, how much is this going to cost? So once we define the project, we will also be undertaking the physical analysis to identify sources and uses of funds, how we're going to pay for its construction as well as operation. But again, this is really a key milestone, getting this MOU in place so we can work collaboratively to undertake the planning activities. So thank you. And Melanie and I are open for questions.
Sorry, I muted myself. So when we talk about what people are going to, the outreach that people are going to have a chance to talk, I think, the whole idea of parking, everyone has a different opinion about what that should be. What can people look forward to being able to contribute? Will they go to their either county or city meetings? Will there be surveys? How can they get involved? Or what will they be seeing?
Well, the first step is to work with the county on developing that strategy, and it will be a multifaceted strategy for outreach. So there would be community meetings, depending on where we're at with COVID, in person or virtual, to be able to review any proposed project and provide feedback on design, location, etc., impacts we would also have online surveys. So that's step number one, really, is developing that strategy. Obviously, there's always the opportunity to provide public comment at board and council meetings, but there'll be much more opportunity before we even get to that point of consideration. Melanie, I don't know if you have anything to add there.
I just want to add, we've even up to this point, bringing forward the downtown MOU, we've already started that process. We've made a point through city and our partnership with downtown stakeholders. The city did directed outreach, made the downtown MOU available. We also, recognizing that there's discussions about the Alisal government campus for the county, the county sent out a notice that the downtown MOU was coming forward to the board and the council to property owners within 300 feet. So we've really already started that outreach, and we're just going to continue and build upon that. We are doing these efforts to provide better services and, a better, vibrant downtown for the community. So we really want to hear and make sure the community is involved in that discussion.
So sounds like there's plenty to look forward to. I have no questions for you. It looks like you have covered it. You have covered it all, and we're just looking forward to watching the next step and how it all evolves.
Great. Us too.
Thanks very much for taking part.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Giving us an update on that.
Bye-bye.
All right. And now we're very pleased to have Darby Marshall, our Housing Program Manager with Housing and Community Development Department, to give us an update on the inclusionary housing listening sessions. For the last month or so, there have been these listening sessions on updating the county's inclusionary housing ordinance. And they've been hearing, people have been sharing concerns about affordable housing. So Darby, thanks very much for joining us. What have we been hearing so far in these sessions?
Hi, Maya. Thank you. So affordable housing always presents a balance between providing fewer houses with bigger subsidies for the very low income, or more affordable housing, but smaller subsidies for moderate income. One of the things that we've heard is there's a tremendous need for all rate, all costs, all subsidy levels, but there seems to be a slight preference for doing more units with smaller housing subsidies. So we're looking more at the moderate income levels. The other challenge is always building where to put these units. Do you put them in a high resource area that has a reputation for good schools, good job opportunities, close to work? Or do you put them in an area where land may be cheaper and you can build more units, but maybe the school district's not as good, or you have to commute a little farther? And right now, what we're seeing is there is again, a slight preference to build fewer units, but build them in these high resource areas. The other thing that really comes out is we are missing what is usually referred to as that missing middle type of housing. So up until World War II, we saw communities that had all kinds of housing, from single room occupancy, hotels, common wall townhomes, row houses, duplexes, triplexes, quadruplexes, and small scale apartment developments up to 20 units. And those kinds of units, by their nature, are typically going to be more affordable. And the community wants to see more of them, but they are just not being built here in Monterey County. So far, as Maya said, we've had 4 listening sessions over about the last month. We've heard from about 300 people and 15 organizations through our survey and the listening sessions. And I have posted links in the chat for the survey and where to see videos and all of the documents that have been developed for the program so far. We really need the community's feedback in developing this, the next iteration of the county's inclusionary housing ordinance. It's one piece that the county has to directly influence where affordable housing is developed and whether it's rental or owner occupied. So this is one of the few opportunities that the county is actually kind of in a controlling position to get affordable housing actually built. And I am available for questions.
Thank you, Darby. Can you tell us, we've got one more listening session coming up. Can you tell us, give us time on that one?
So the final listening session is tomorrow at 1:30 and it will be on Zoom. And I wasn't able to post the link because I can't go into Zoom twice, but it is available on the county website.
And we'll do a follow-up email with our partners here to get that information out to them. So let me see if there's any questions for Darby about some of the information that he's talked about. Really great information coming out of these meetings. Is this what you had hoped for?
It is. I would love to see more participation because this is such an important issue here in the county. So the more people that we can reach and get feedback from, I think it would definitely lead to a better outcome.
So we'll go ahead and repost the information about the final listening session tomorrow. I have no questions for you, but thanks very much for sharing this information and what we're hearing so far, and that we're getting a good turnout.
Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks everyone for joining us on the news briefing today. Our next briefing is next week. We'll see you then.